Welcome. Gio and I are here with Gina Schreck, founder of the Village Work Wellness and Event Space. Should that be Spaces? This is your second location, right, Gina?
No, it's
No.
not. First, it's
Oh,
we did look at expanding last 2 years ago,
yeah.
but then when we took over the whole building in here, we were,
Oh,
let's just
I
do it
thought that whole time, even the walls you put up, all the new wall system, that was just an
everything in here.
expansion.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
We
got it.
expanded in here
But so you went from how many square feet to how many square feet?
from 10,000 square feet to 50,000.
Right.
Yeah. So we went,
Dang. Okay.
maybe we should wait on another location
No,
until
but
we
now
find.
you're trying to buy the building, which is great. I love
Yeah,
this. So
yeah.
maybe we'll dive into that a little bit too. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, welcome. It's so good. I'd have to look up and see
yeah.
when you were on my podcast. It was a while ago. So I'm
A
looking
long
forward
time
to
ago.
the updates. Yes.
Yes.
And for our listeners not watching on YouTube, Gina has her own podcast and her own podcast studio. So this is like award-winning background you've got going on there.
Yeah, award-winning. This room gets used a lot, which is really
Yeah.
exciting. It's fun. And it's a big room. Like we have a photographer moving in that is going to add all her backdrops. She's like, "Oh, everybody can use it with more lights and things in
Like
here."
a content studio.
Yeah. So she does a lot of headshots and then video content as well. And so, but right now we've got lights and we've got cameras people can use and all the equipment, microphones, soundboard, and different backdrops. We've got a brick wall on one side, the wood wall, a white wall. So you can kind of pivot around in here depending on what you're doing.
Okay.
And you've been doing your own podcast, right?
Oh gosh, we've had a podcast for 7 or 8 years.
Yep.
Woo!
Maybe longer. But when I owned a marketing agency and we did a podcast every week for that. And then we rebranded it and moved it from calling it The Journey to The Neighborhood. And yeah, so it's been fun and lots of changes this year with my daughter who worked for me for 18 years
Oh, that's
in the
right.
marketing agency and here at the Village when we opened it. She worked here for 5 years. And then she just left in January to do something totally different. So
Okay.
that's been a really great transition for both of us.
Now that you're through it, maybe you didn't feel that way in the middle of it.
We both realized I was ready to step back in the next year or so, and she didn't want to take over. She said, "This has grown so big. I'm a task person. I love getting lists and doing the
Oh.
tasks." She said, "I'm not a person who I could see running this." And so I said, "Well, maybe we need to find somebody who's ready to step into that."
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
she started looking at what would she want to do. It was a great exercise. And I think when people work with family members, they realize after a while, like, oh, all we ever talk about is work.
Yeah.
And maybe this would be really good for us.
Yeah.
So it
And good
was,
for her, like a new journey to use the
yeah, a
podcast name.
great. And she still comes in here and works out of here. And she works at an event company, which is ironic.
Oh,
They
wow.
do these big giant events at convention centers. But she's the person that shows up and says, "Oh, you need 40 tables and you
Totally.
need jugglers and you need."
Nobody in this room wants that job, but it's good
No,
that she
good
does.
that she does. And what's ironic is I work less now that she's gone, which was
Ooh.
both of us were like, "This is strange."
Hmm.
But when she was here, I felt like, "Oh, it's really busy. I better get in there and help."
Yeah.
Um,
You're on the team. It's your
Yes.
daughter. Yeah.
My daughter, I know she's stressed with a little, she has a daughter, and I just was stressed for her. And so I was here more. Now she's gone. I thought, oh, we have a team that runs everything. Why do I need to come in before 10? Why do I need to
Mm.
be here on the weekends? I'm not coming in.
Mm.
So I work a lot less, which has been really good.
Wait, before we move on, I want to ask about your podcast studio. So,
Oh, yeah.
podcast studios are kind of an interesting, since you're a businesswoman and you've been diving into the numbers,
Yeah.
podcast studios either usually they don't work. So I'm curious, why does yours work? You said it gets used a lot. What do you
Yeah.
think the dynamic is, or what have you done? Why does it get used?
I mean, part of it is we push every business in here to be
Start one?
podcasting. I mean, we tell everybody you should be either doing video content, you should be in here doing, regular photos of your products or your
Mhm.
team. You
Mhm.
should be creating content for your website. So we really encourage and talk about it a lot. We do regular podcasts, lunch and learn classes. How do you start a podcast? How do you
Okay.
so I think that's part of it. We really
Yeah.
market it. And then we have it at a price point for outsiders. $20 an hour is so cheap that you can't find a podcast studio around here. Now we don't do any post-production work.
Yeah.
We have a couple people that we refer them to, but at $20 an hour, it gets used a lot. And that's what I want. I want people in here on the
You
weekends.
want, yeah.
I mean, we have people in this building almost 24/7 because we have stuff all weekend. We have people that work here at night. And so the space, the room gets used a lot more than other podcast studios. And it makes sense because we use it. We're like,
Yep.
I would have it regardless because we do our podcast in here. And my goal this year is doing more podcasting. So I think from a marketing angle, you really have to encourage people
Mhm.
and make
Yeah.
it easy for them.
Yeah.
And
You
then
will,
we sell services like you have to pay at least for a 30-minute first time use so we can show you how to use the soundboard, how to use all the equipment. We have everything hung on the wall when you're done so we don't come into a mess in here every time. And you set up how many microphones you need. And so we go through a training that people have to pay for. And so they're paying $100 to go through that the first time they use it. Then after that, it's $20 an hour. So yeah,
love it.
yeah. But it is one of those things you have to decide, are we going to, but if you're going to use it all the time, that helps.
Yeah.
If you're
And
just,
you're walking the talk and you're sort of part of the culture of the space. It's like you're
Right.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it. Okay, Gio, over to you.
Well, obviously, you had her on your podcast before. So why don't we start with kind of what your background is? You obviously said marketing. Why'd you start the co-working space? I mean, you've gone from 10,000 to 50,000 feet. So for the people that don't know your backstory, let's start there.
it's been a crazy 5 years. We hit the 5-year mark March 2nd. So taking that back 5 years, we opened 11 days before the pandemic. So we opened in March of 2020, like a lot of co-working operators, and we had 10,000 square feet of this building, of a 50,000 square foot building. And DaVita Dialysis, they had a big call center in the other 40,000 square feet. We opened it because I had this marketing agency with 12 employees. We were looking for office space. We kept touring co-working spaces. We couldn't agree on one that we just felt like they were really quiet. They were really sterile. They obviously didn't allow either dogs or kids, a lot of them. And so if you brought in, Taylor had just had a baby, my daughter, and I said, bring her with us when we tour because there's going to be days you're going to have to bring her to work. And we would go in some and we thought, oh, we would be kicked out of this place really quick because we're too loud, or you have your dog with you or your daughter with you. And we just felt like they were very corporate-y feeling. And so we started joking and saying, maybe we should open our own co-working space and just make it for marketers. And I know. And you
Marketers
always
who
have
bring their
that.
babies and dogs to work.
Yeah, exactly. And we wanted it to feel like this little village. So we wanted it to look like little houses. And we had this dream. So we're writing all the ideas down and we're at a coffee shop talking about it. And a guy is sitting next to us and he's listening and he leans over and he goes, I'm just curious what you guys are working on. And we started telling him, he says, oh, I'm a realtor. I do residential real estate, but I have a friend who's a commercial broker. I can introduce you. And so one thing led to another. We started
It's all downhill when you get the realtor.
And once you get the realtor, it becomes real. Yeah. And so it became real fast. And at first we started thinking, oh, let's just start small, like 5,000 square feet. And then the more we listened to your podcast, Jamie, of you can't do under 10,000 square feet.
I mean, you can. It depends on your personal and financial goals.
Yes, that is true. And mine was to make money. And
Yes.
I said, yeah. And so I said, okay, we've got to go bigger. And so we started looking at 10,000 square foot spaces. So we opened up in March of 2020 and we had already pre-sold. We had 34 offices and 4 small conference rooms. Our largest held 20 people. And then we had 2 that were little huddle rooms. And so we had 34 offices plus meeting space. And we opened up and we had already sold 15. I think we had 14 or 15 offices sold, pre-sold when we opened. And then again, 11 days later, the pandemic hits. Well, we never closed. We were open every single day. I never worked from home during the pandemic. So to me, there was no pandemic in my mind. We came to work every day. It was our little bubble sanctuary of normalcy. And everyone that was here felt like this was our sanctuary. We came in, we helped each other. We started Facebook Lives for them. We did training on video content for them. We had enough space that everybody went in their offices and then they'd come in the cafe area. We have a 1,500 square foot big cafe that's a open workspace, but we were doing video in there. We were doing I mean, every day we were here, and we got certified as a mail processing, center. So we got to be
Essential.
yeah. And so we technically were able to stay open, and slowly that year, very slowly, it grew. And to the point where in 2021, we had to turn our conference rooms into offices because everybody wanted offices. Nobody wanted hot desks. Nobody wanted dedicated desks. Everyone wanted offices. So we turned all the training rooms and meeting rooms into offices. Then we were full. We thought, okay, we're going to expand. We're going to look for another location. As we were looking, we couldn't find anything. My criteria was very specific. I wanted one level. I wanted lots of free parking. I wanted it easy. We're in the suburbs. So it was just hard to find something that fit that. So then we thought, we'll move into the building behind us. There's an identical building behind us. And right as I was about to sign a lease back there for 10 years for another 10,000 square feet, DaVita came to me and said, hey, we heard that you were wanting more space. We have 40,000 square feet. We left during COVID. Do you want to take over the whole space? And I was like, oh gosh, no, like that's a lot. I just want another like 10 to 15,000 square feet. And they said, well, we'll make it worth your while. Come and look at it. And we're walking the space. And I was like, oh my gosh, it goes on for days. It's just so huge. But they made the numbers look really good. And I went home that night and I was like, a lot of event spaces closed during COVID. And suddenly we were getting lots of calls for a 50-person room, and we could build out event space. So I said, let's do it. Let's go for 50,000 square feet. And it's been 2 years now. June 1st, we got the keys for that 40,000 square feet side and busted open the wall June 2 years ago. So yeah, it's been a crazy, and now we're full again. We have 80 offices and we have a 200-person ballroom. We have two 50-person training rooms. We have 5 conference meeting rooms, like boardroom style, a yoga studio that also doubles as a 75-person event. We do a lot of graduation parties, wedding rehearsals, baby showers, things like that. So we have lots of event space and it's booming. I mean, the event space took off in the last few years. So that carried us through this big expansion revenue wise. That was bringing in $40,000 a month in revenue, which is what our initial side was like $40,000 a month revenue.
Yeah.
Well, this event space was bringing in more revenue.
Wow.
As we were expanding. It really helped us survive the expansion. So it was crazy. But yeah. Lots of
Yeah, I remember being in there when you were looking at it. You were in the process of negotiating it. So we got to sit down and kind of talk through some of that.
Yeah, it was an interesting time of just saying, okay, can we fill 50,000? I mean, I just always feel like what we have is so unique in that we sell community. We sell that camaraderie that we bring for entrepreneurs, and we're very hands-on in here. And we sell that, and then we happen to have offices. And it's exactly what people are looking for. Big and small companies. And we've got now all the bigger companies that are saying, we don't want to renew a lease. We're going to move into co-working. So we've got a lot of those, a lot of associations that let go of their big spaces and moved in. We have association management companies, 3 associations, software companies, landscaping companies, a moving company, a locksmith company. They all had their own businesses somewhere else and let the lease go and moved in. So it's been very interesting to see how they all said, what I loved here was that there was community already, that we didn't have to bring our team. If there was going to be, if there would be maybe 3 people coming to work today, They wouldn't be feeling like they were just 3 people in a big building or an office. They had this whole community, as well as when we all showed up for meetings and things like that. So I do think that is why we have grown continually. And we have a wait list right now for offices, which I didn't think would happen after we expanded. We have a wait list for offices because people come here and go, this place is magical. This community is incredible. It's really cool.
Well, let's talk about that magic that people talk about. Is what is it that is that, right? Is it because you are targeting small entrepreneurs? Is it because of your hospitality? Is it because what is it?
It is interesting because we just had this big dinner here last weekend. It was a communal community dinner, and you sat at tables with strangers, and we had a 6-course meal, and you had a question posed at each course, and the chef would come out and talk about that course. And then we had a community question. And we talked about just the word community we use so much, and hospitality we use so much, but those two coincide in the word hospital. And I said, it's interesting here. We say some days it is a hospital and you're caring for people. You're helping them in some of the lowest, most challenging times of their business. And other days it's this celebration place where, we have a Brazilian group here that they sell visa processing. They have a call center here, and they ring a bell when they make a sale, and everybody in the offices around them, they don't complain because they hear a bell. Everyone comes out and starts cheering for them. And it's just so cool. We were just saying, what a cool thing that everyone around them, because they're not in an area that needs to be quiet, but they come out and cheer with them. And I said, it's a place that you celebrate with each other and you take care, and you know enough about every single person in here that they look out for their, whether it's family that they're struggling with health issues. We have somebody in here that's going through cancer treatment. Everybody rallied around. They're doing meals, and and it's not even just the, couple people. It's not just our team. It's the people in this community. And I said, you see people going through tough times, and everybody comes around that person. And we have a support group that meets here. We have a writers group that meets here. So there's just, what I love is when we first started, it was me. It was my 2 daughters. We were really trying to get this community going. Now I'm not here a lot. And I walk in and I see these things happening, and it's like, oh, it makes me so happy because the community has now grown to a point where they take care of each other. It's really,
Although, Gina, I'm guessing you are not exempt from churn. So people leave, especially with 80 offices.
yeah.
How do you maintain that magic? Because it sounds like you and your daughter are not spending, your daughter's moved on,
He's not here. Yeah.
and you're spending less time. So there's a team that's carrying on this culture, and then you do have new people who cycle in. I mean, it's pretty incredible that,
Yeah.
because that doesn't, we like to think that happens everywhere. It does not,
It does not. Oh,
So
no. No, people
yeah.
come in here and say, oh, I was just at this co-working space over here. And yeah, there were people there, but nobody really, like, you didn't get to know each other.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is we do have, I call them ambassadors. They're not assigned, but
Mhm.
we have TVs throughout the space that have our member profiles, and it has upcoming events and things on the TVs. And there's a couple of them that we put ambassador on their little profile. And they're so proud of that. They're always showing people, look, I'm an ambassador here. Well, I mean, and it's because they're the connectors. They're
Yeah.
people that just self-appointed, they are connectors. One of them being that realtor that was eavesdropping 8 years ago.
That's crazy.
He has an office here, and he is one that connects everybody. And we talk about that, the importance of when you see somebody you don't know, go up, introduce yourself, but then connect them to someone else. Oh, you're a locksmith? Wait, you need to know the moving company over here. Oh, you're a tree care company? Do you know that we have a landscape company that works with new build construction? You guys need to work together and partner. So, and we have 9 BNI groups, which are these business network international groups. 9 BNI groups that meet here, as well as we have an eWomen network group. We have we have probably 12 to 15 different networking groups that meet here weekly. So you have all these people in here that are all connectors, and it's just great. Somebody says, "Oh, I'm looking for a plumber." Oh, actually, we have one that has an office here. That this plumbing company is in here, and so it's one of these things we're always connecting people, and I think that is something you feel even when you have a new person that moves in, immediately they get their little welcome kit. They get their neighbors that come and introduce themselves to them. And it's now this organic thing that it's expected. So it's not something we have to force or pay people extra or do something. It's just you just see it happen. So it's really cool. And we have this really magical piece. We have 5 nonprofits that are in here. 2 of them fight human trafficking. And we
Wow.
we give one of those groups has an office here for free. They have 125 pieces of art, huge paintings in here. Every painting is a story of someone who was rescued from human trafficking. And what's interesting is when people come in, they go, "It looks like an art gallery in here." We have Arapaho Libraries, they do events in here, and they have everyone at the event go and tour the art. The city, the mayor, she has an arts and cultural foundation, and she holds her events here and incorporates the art into her programs. So it's this really great, the visibility is great, but there's also this feel when you walk in, you're going, it feels, I mean, everyone says, "I love the vibe. I love that," but what it is they see that it's very nurturing by the design. And then you kind of start meeting people. You're going, "Oh, wow, this group helps moms with postpartum over here. This person is working on human trafficking. This group over here is suicide prevention." And so there's always events going on that support those groups as well, which everybody gets involved in. So it's really, I mean, it is a really unique blend.
Well, like you said, it really is a community center, right? In a lot of ways for those support systems, for those associations, for even sounds like the local political landscape as well.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of their events are held here. And then again, we have 2 church groups. We have one that has 150 members that meets every Sunday in our ballroom. And at first we were like, how is that going to work? I guess now we're going to have to not have events, you know, on certain days, but it has worked out perfect. It's just so beautiful. And that group gets involved in everything. They're so involved in people's lives. If ever we have somebody that's struggling, they're like, "We'll get somebody to help them move furniture," or "We have this, we're going to donate to this group." So it's been really fun to see that come together as well.
So does the church have offices there too, or just
Yeah, we have
okay?
2 churches that meet here. They have an office, and then their services are on Sunday. One meets in our yoga studio because they're smaller. They have about 50 people, and one meets in the big ballroom on Sundays. So on Sundays you walk in, you're like, "Oh, there's a yoga class at night, and then there's church service in the morning." And
That's
there's
funny.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's like I come in here at 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's a community theater group that's tap dancing in our cafe because they're rehearsing."
Amazing.
Yeah,
Gina,
it's really
did
fun.
you update your name when you added the ballroom? Because I noticed I was like, how is she marketing office space and events? Because oftentimes I see a challenge for operators is that, if they have this mix of
Yeah.
offerings that are significant, it's hard to show up. I mean, I see a lot of operators who don't even show up for meeting space, but you're showing up for event space when I do
Yeah,
a search because you have significant, but it's also in your name. And I'm wondering, did you
we
change
did.
it?
We
Okay.
didn't legally change it, but
Okay, right.
on
Your
Google, I
LLC.
went to it and I went to Google and changed it to the Village Work, Wellness, and Event Center.
Yeah.
Then we started realizing keywords that we would have never thought of, like banquet hall. I just
Uh,
never used the word banquet hall.
yeah.
But we get a lot of cultural groups that come in and they look for banquet halls. So it just goes, when you get a
Mhm.
booking, we always ask, "How'd you hear about us?" And when they said, "Oh, I Googled you." "Oh, what did you Google?" We always ask, "What did you Google?"
Yeah.
Because what they Google is not what most of us think. And I think that's a lesson just for my marketing days is we use jargon and terminology that we think everybody searches for, co-working or event
Nobody's
space.
searching for dedicated desk.
Nobody's searching for dedicated desk. I don't even know what that means. Like, what is that? Is it every
Exactly.
desk that I sit in dedicated to me? Um, yeah. And so asking people, what did you Google when you found us? You'll learn so much. And we had to add in
Mhm.
some phrases that, we're searching for banquet halls. Yeah.
Then I'm also curious, 5,000 feet of dedicated event space, like what made you lean into that risk? Was it partly that you didn't want to build it out or just
No,
really
we had
believe in
to
it?
build out. We had to build out because there were 300 cubicles in here. So we had to clear out cubicles and then we had to build walls but I met with the mayor and I met with the city manager and I said, and Stephanie Pico, Mayor Pico works out of here. She does her meetings here.
Okay, pro tip for everybody
Yeah,
listening.
yeah.
Get them there to be a member.
Yeah, especially if you have a city
Gina.
that it's a smaller city and they don't have offices, elected officials in a lot of these smaller cities, they don't have an office. They have a utility building. They have you know, building for their construction staff and maintenance staff, but not for their mayors. And so she was like, oh no, I'm going to have to be in here and use the space. And so I met with her and I said, I'm thinking of adding event space and we're going to be expanding. What type of events do you see happening and what does the city use? And she said, funny you should ask. We have to pay the city of Lone Tree, which is right next to us, to use their event space because when we hold our big meetings, we need a space for 150 people. I said, okay. So then she said, meet with Matt, the city manager, and ask him what size space he thinks. And they kept saying 100 to 150. So I thought, okay, let's build a 200-person ballroom to get wedding receptions, you know, the quinceañeras. We do lots of anniversary parties. We've done so many crazy bar mitzvahs. We've done graduation parties, and they're all 200 person. They look for 200-person space. And so that's why we went big on the event space. We've learned a lot. We have more than doubled our
It's a
price.
whole different business, right? I
Yeah,
mean, that's what I'm
it's a
like, dang,
totally
you just
separate business.
went for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we learned that in the first year going, oh, we're charging way too low for events.
Yeah.
And you have to rent tablecloths because they're going to cost you $8 to dry clean them. Just all the things we learned in the first year we were charging like $1,500 to rent a 200-person space and then charging things on top of we're like, oh, now it's $3,000 plus if it's after 10 p.m. you have to have a $500 charge so as we can have a security guard here. So we've learned a lot in the event, but it's the interesting thing is in the South Denver area, there's very few event spaces. So it's booked all the time. Yeah.
And that area's grown so much, right? Lots of families, lots of
Oh,
new development.
still growing. Like from here to Castle Rock, where I live, they're adding, I think it's 20,000 more homes in
Yeah.
just the South area that people don't want to drive downtown. The traffic is bad. There's a lot of issues when you're downtown that people are like, I don't want to hold events there. So we've capitalized on that as well. Yeah, but it is a
Yeah. And I mean, I think Jamie, it's both Kiln and Shift are technically competitors, right?
they're about 30 minutes away.
Oh, they're
But
30 minutes away from
they're
you.
they're west.
Wow.
They're
Okay.
southwest.
Yep.
Kiln is southwest in Littleton, and so is Shift in Littleton. But yeah, those would be the comparable businesses, but they're far enough west that people who live out there, this is too much of a drive, and vice versa.
Well, also it's a different product mixes. I think that's where I was going, right? I mean, your vibe and your community feel is different than their vibe and community feel, right?
Yeah, we have Thrive, Chad and Charlie, and then Creative Density, well, yeah,
Yeah.
you just had them, Craig on, they've now come together and they've got offices right here near us, like within a few miles. But
Okay.
it's so different. Like theirs is Craig is very no staff, everything's DIY. I mean, he always gives me a hard time. He goes, how could you possibly do events? That's so much work. And I go, how could you possibly do DIY? I would never want to leave my house for that. I want someone to bring me coffee. I want somebody to do stuff for me. I'm too much of a diva to work in a DIY space where I have to do all that.
My God, that's such a good name for like the avatar
Yeah, it is.
diva.
We
I'm
always
going
say
to start using that.
We cater to
I'm
divas.
also a diva. Yeah, totally.
We joke about that here. We go, we totally cater to divas. And that is, I always say, I am my ideal
Yeah.
avatar. If I would leave my beautiful office at home and pay money, it better be something I can't get at home. And that is the
Mhm.
community and the service. And that's what I mean. I always say my biggest competitor is your cushy office
Yeah.
at home.
100%. Yeah.
100%. And it's like, I'm not going to go to a DIY place that looks like it's a quiet, sterile workplace when I can work at home and have, that. So that's what we really lean into is we service the divas. And, you want to have a happy hour on Tuesdays and popcorn brought to your office to remind you that it's time. We're doing it for you. You want to have karaoke. We're bringing it out, you want to whatever it is, our answer to everything is you want something, we say absolutely. It may cost, and I'll tell you what that'll be, but yes, it can be done. So one of my first requests when we were trying to buy this building is, can we put a rooftop deck on it? So I said, I will find out.
Which is totally doable in Denver, where it's sunny 300 days a year.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. But yeah,
So your daughter's no longer working there with you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
If you were to ask her what she loved most about working with you for 18 years, what are the three things she would say?
working with me or working here?
Working with you.
I mean, I'm so fortunate. I'm very blessed because we have a great relationship. And she's always saying, I've learned so much from you on doing the impossible. In the last 2 years, I think I've shared the story with you. She became our general contractor and she has no construction background because in the middle of our construction project in the expansion, we let our GC go because we found out he had lied about a bunch of things because the mayor walked in. She's like, how's the construction going? I said, oh, funny you say that. We're waiting for 6 weeks for an inspection, as he said, from the
Oh,
city.
no.
She said, oh, he's lying. We have a 40-hour rule. And she says, have you looked at your permit to see what inspections he called for? And we said, wait, we can look at yeah, we didn't know that. And she goes, hold on, I'm going to log in. She logs in on her computer.
Another reason to be buds with the mayor.
Yes. We learned you really, as a business owner, need to be tight with your city. You need to get involved with your economic development people at your city. And then you also need to be friends with the building inspectors and ask them questions. And when they would come for inspections, we would say, why isn't this good? Why is this? Tell us what we need to do. And they were so open to educate us. It was so nice. The chief building inspector was like, I will come and do the inspection myself because he's lying to you about this, that, this. And so we found out. So Taylor, we needed a new GC. We called Chad and Charlie over at Thrive and said, hey, can you be our GC? Because one of them has this contractor license. And he said, oh, I've let it expire. I'd have to go take the test. And Taylor's like, maybe I can become the GC. I said, I don't think it's that easy. I think you have to have experience.
Okay, but I love the attitude.
Yeah.
I could probably learn that.
You know what? She called the chief building inspector, Joseph Montoya. And she said, Joseph, what does it take to get a general contractor license in Centennial? And he says, you have to pass a really hard test, have insurance, and have an LLC established. That's it. In Denver, you have to have like 4 years experience. You have to have all this document. In Centennial, you didn't. So Taylor orders all the books. She studies. She takes the test 2 weeks later. She fails miserably.
Okay.
She comes back and goes, okay, I know what I failed. I'm going to study again. I'm going to pass the next time. She fails the first time, goes the second time, takes the test, and she failed the second time. She got like 40% or something, and you had to have 70. And so she goes, okay, I'm going back. I'm studying again. Every time she would go, it's the same proctor. The same woman is proctoring the exam. So the third time she walks in and the lady just kind of smiles at her and goes, okay, this time for sure. Taylor brings her exam up. The third time she looks at the lady, she goes, I crushed it this time. And the lady prints out her results. She goes, actually, you failed again. Oh, no. And so the fourth time she passed, she took it. You could take it 6 times before you have to wait a year. But she passed on the 4th try. And everybody, the whole community in here, one of the teams bought her this big toolbox. Everybody brought her gifts.
That is hilarious.
It's incredible. The persistence.
It was so good.
Oh my
And
God.
that's what Taylor would say is working with me over the last 19 years. I've always been the one going, there's nothing we can't do. It's going to be hard, but if we're willing to do what other people are not willing to do, we'll make it. And we've always just been willing to do the work. And, Taylor's was always up there with a hacksaw up in the ceiling tile for something. I think she just liked it, but we were always going, oh gosh. Yeah. So it's been really a fun journey, lots of stress, but I told her the other day, I said, what's interesting? In the last probably 4 months, I haven't been curled up in a corner crying or having a breakdown. So it's getting easier. So yeah, it's been
Wait, do you
quite the
still
journey.
were you still having curl up in a ball in the corner moments?
During the build out, I
Yeah.
felt like it was
Okay.
a weekly occurrence of, oh my gosh, what are we doing? We don't even know what we're doing. She's the general contractor.
Right.
And we're trying
And
to
she found her desk 4 times.
And thanks to Dan and Dorothy Bullis, because we did the folk built walls, and that really did make it fast and easy. Like, he came out and measured. They came out and did all that. So it wasn't like we were enduring months of construction
Yeah.
for offices. The folk built walls went up so quick. It was really cool to watch. In 11 days, they added 33 offices that were the folk built offices in 11 days. And it was just like this erector set. And people were like, that's so cool. Instead of complaining about construction, everyone was fascinated and they felt like they were part of that. So it was really cool. Yeah, but that was a stressful thing. Getting financing. People say, what was the hardest part? I go, money. That was the hardest part. Trying to get a loan to do the build out because we got 0 TI dollars when we subleased from
Because
DaVita.
it's how many years is a sublease?
It was 5 years. So we have
Okay.
four more years, which will be interesting because they will now pay me when we buy the building. DaVita will pay me, and they're paying higher than market rate. And I will continue to pay them,
Okay.
and they will pay the mortgage. So for 4
Yeah.
years, our mortgage is paid.
Covered. Okay. That's why the bank likes the deal.
Yeah, totally. They have a high credit rated
Yeah. Yeah.
DaVita
Yeah.
on the hook
Interesting.
for 4 more years. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a sweet deal. So it's interesting.
That's amazing.
It's very unique. But I mean, even trying to get, you have to put down 1.1 million to buy this building.
Yeah.
That was my down payment. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't have after we just spent $1 million doing the build out, how am I going to come up with $1 million? And the Taylor and I were having this conversation, and she said, well, if anybody can do the impossible, this is what you specialize in. I go, I know, but if I go to my husband and say, we need to pull another $1 million out of our retirement, he's literally going to drop dead.
Yeah.
Can't. And so
which would reduce the retirement liability. Sorry.
And then life insurance would kick in. It would all be.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it's terrible. But I called the building owner, Nick, who owns the building, and I said, can I meet with you? So we set up a meeting. We met downtown at the Hyatt downtown, and my broker said, should I come with you? Do you want to prepare like a pitch deck? Are you gonna? And I said, no. I said, I just want to meet one-on-one with them.
It's going to be a man-to-man conversation.
Yeah. And I literally looked at him. I said, Nick, you want to sell the building. I want to buy the building. How can we get creative with you helping me come up with the 1.1 million to put down? And then the building will be sold. You'll have that money. And he just looked at me. He's like, well, my mom once had the opportunity to buy a building in 1995. And he started telling me this story of his mom buying this little building in Denver that changed her life. And he said, send me your personal financial stuff. Let me think about it. So on Monday, he called me and said, all right, I'm not going to put down the whole 1.1, but I'll give you 750,000 interest free for 3 years. Yeah. I was prepared to pay him 10% like an investor, but I didn't say that day because I was like, let me just see what he comes up with. And he said, I'll do 750,000 interest free. You pay me 21,000 or 20,000 something a month for 3 years. It's paid off. I have my money. I walk away. You're done. And I just was sitting there going, this is an opportunity that it's just the perfect blend of all the things coming together. And so I said, okay, so we're putting 350, which is still a lot, but 350 versus 1.1 million makes it very doable. So yeah, even that is just thinking outside this can't be done. It's like, okay, how can we make it happen?
You
Which was
never
what
know.
followed
You
up.
may not know the how. You
Yeah.
never would have guessed that he would have done that. Never.
No, and I was prepared to pay him thinking, okay, he'll make money off it, so why wouldn't he? Yeah. And then he said 0 interest. So I was like, wow.
Well, I just think it's amazing that you don't ever know people's stories. And I mean, just
Yeah.
had his mom not had that experience and him
Right.
known it, then he probably wouldn't have done that for you, right? And so
We connected not on a transaction deal. I didn't come in prepared to pitch him like an investor. I didn't come in with, my broker or anything else. It was just like we sat down at a coffee shop and I just said, you want to sell the building? I want to buy the building. How can we get creative? And that story that he told was, I could tell the moment he was like, because I asked him, I said, how does one break into this industry of buying buildings and commercial property? I said, you're running a business. You don't have $1 million surplus in your business sitting there. And I said, how do you get a break? And that's when he started telling me the story about his mom, who was an attorney and had this little office in the building and ended up getting an SBA loan. And, he told me the story and I was just like, he's gonna do it. Yeah. It was great.
that's awesome.
Yeah. It was really cool.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Gina, what are you doing with your time when you're not working so much these days?
We've
Besides filling out SBA loan
yeah,
paperwork.
yeah, lately in the last month, just paperwork on SBA, but we've taken a lot more vacations. So we went to Costa Rica about 3 weeks ago. In February, we went to Mexico. So this was the deal. My husband was like, when are you gonna when are you gonna be
When are
done?
you gonna come hang out with me? Wait, is your
Yeah.
husband retired?
No, he's still working too.
Okay.
So although he says he has to keep working because I keep spending the money on this building.
Well, there's that.
Yeah. I mean, he has retired twice and gets pulled back in. He was the COO at Service Magic, which became Home Advisor, which is now Angie. And he, then went to Health Grades, was a COO there. Now he's a COO at another company, Vivax. So he goes in, he loves what he does, but he's ready to be done and he's able to take a lot of time off. So I said, there's nothing preventing me from traveling more. So book the trips. Let's go. That's not a reason. Me being here, I can picture myself being here till I'm 80. They'll
Yeah.
find me in the back room talking crazy to somebody about their
Totally.
marketing or something. So, yeah, so it's pretty fun. Yeah, it's just fun. I'm doing more writing. I joined we have a writers group that meets here, so I joined them and working on a memoir. We're all working on memoirs here. And so,
Ooh.
I've written 7 or 8 books, all business books and marketing
Okay.
books. And so I said, this will be the first that would be an interesting take on things. So yeah, just kind of looking at what is it I want to do more of, and doing podcasting and writing is fun.
Wait, what is the podcast like? Is it, you said it's called The Neighborhood. Is it really to market the space
Super
or
fun.
what?
No,
Okay.
no, and it's really targeting. I mean, it's funny because I do it with my daughters, and so we finally got it down. Taylor and I do the podcast, and then Bailey, who sometimes will come on screen, but she's our producer, and so she will be our fact checker and but we talk about business and marketing news, ways that small businesses can use that information. And we do a lot on AI because I'm fascinated by AI and how we're able to use it in our business. And so we give tips on small businesses, how you can, little things you should be doing right now to stay on top of that. So we give that. And then occasionally we'll bring in a guest, a neighbor in here. And, I don't want it to be a sales pitch type podcast. So it really has to be, I want to talk to them about a specific thing that's going on in their work or their world. But it's fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It's a fun.
So how are you using AI in your space?
I mean, I feel like we're using it a lot I have my AI board of directors. I'm in a mastermind group that, we talk about your board of directors. So I have my board of directors that are made up of thought leaders in commercial real estate, in business. It could be, I think Sarah Blakely's one of my board of directors from Spanx. So you pick who you want to give you business advice. And then I monthly sit down and have what are the things that I'm really struggling with or working on. And then the board of directors gives you their input and their insights based on their, insights and experience. So that's one of the early ways I was using it of just
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
how
whoa.
can I
So you have an AI board that you have
I
chosen with Sarah Blakely being one of them.
yeah, and
Okay, I missed the fact that that was AI. I was like, how the
oh
F
yeah.
did she get Sarah Blakely
No,
to be on
no.
her board?
No, you just identify. So I went to AI first and did a deep research project of who are the thought leaders in business. And I wanted them because Richard Branson is on my board. I and then I needed to make sure there were people who had written enough content that
Mm,
they had content out there for AI
yeah.
to find. And so I picked people in different industries. And then I told AI, took this research project and came over to another open project and said, now I want, these are my board of directors. I want to pose these questions. And then it gives you what each person, how they would handle that particular scenario, which is so cool. And when you read it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so brilliant. Then I started going in, like I needed to create documents for the holding company that I had to create. I would go into AI and I would use Chat GPT, a research project on I'm buying a building. I need to understand the different aspects of this. And can you look at these different terms that I'm considering? And it gives you, to me, it's been this great thought partner of making me ask different questions and making me think differently. And, when you're just working with your team, you start being siloed into just our industry and
Yeah.
our team even. And even in a mastermind, we bring it up, but we're still talking about our industry. So it's been interesting to get outside of that and get input and questions to make me think about things differently. And so I'm using that definitely. I've used it as research projects for all kinds of things from potentially selling the business, potentially selling the building in three, looking at, okay, what is my exit strategy? What should my exit strategy look like? And so just putting all of that into a tool that will help you think differently is so helpful. And then we do things like, looking at our projections. Here's all of our numbers and help us with projecting, forecasting expenses after construction. And it's amazing what you can get out of these tools once you start setting up. I love the projects feature in OpenAI, and that's really
Totally.
been helpful. Yeah.
Wait, so when you did the research for your advisory board, which I'm totally copying as soon as we're done
Yeah.
recording,
Oh, yeah.
did you use ChatGPT or did you use another AI tool?
I used ChatGPT first of just saying, tell me who are the thought leaders in this industry. And then I went and looked at them to see,
Yeah.
is this somebody who has similar, in commercial real estate, I don't want someone who's doing multifamily units and,
Yep.
invest in an investment world, or I belong to a philanthropy group here. And so I was like, I want somebody who has kind of that mission minded, that heart. And so I picked some people that were in that realm. So it's kind of looking at who would I put on a board if I were trying to put together a really diverse board. And so everybody that suggested, I would go and look at and go, well, that's not exactly a person I'd want to have their input. But then I want someone that's more creative. Oh, okay, that's when I started going, oh, Richard Branson and Sarah Blakely would be my top of mind, because people go, oh, do you have Steve Jobs? I was like, no, because that's not somebody that I would want to get.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like Steve Jobs, like a lot of
Mhm.
people. And I'm not developing that. So looking at each person, but then you create however many you want on your board. And then you have those people. I said, I know I'd be sued, but put them on your website saying, here's our board of directors. Yeah, pretty funny.
Oh, I love that. It's
Yeah.
great. And I
So a
just
lot of
texted
that.
Gio. I said, Gio, I think that's your topic.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and we're really diving into on the marketing side. There's a lot of things, AI. We have 2 interns right now that are working on our event side during the summer, and we always talk about go in and take this piece of content, and I want you to go into ChatGPT, teaching them how do you use this to create pieces of content. Now go into Canva, use the AI features in Canva to create the graphics for it or improve the graphics. I always tell them the first time is never the last, whatever it gives you first, dive deeper, dive deeper, dive deeper. Because that's another thing I think people do is they use it to just come up with a quick answer and then just put that in. But it's like, that's your first draft. If this were an intern that gave me this, I'm going to ask them, okay, go deeper on this point here to elaborate, get more facts here, ask it for things that you're not thinking of and see what it says. When you have a question, go there first and ask. And I'll tell you who's the queen. My daughter, who's the youngest daughter, who's 29, she asks Chat GPT everything. She asks it for what face makeup. Here's the brand I've been using, and it's
Oh,
no
my daughter,
longer.
same thing. And
I was
she
blown
talks
away.
to, with the British accent and
Yes,
everything.
yes, yes.
Everything.
So,
Yes.
and I was like, oh, that is interesting. Just hearing how she was using it for things like, oh, this is the makeup, and here's the brand, and it's no longer what makeup use it, and it tells her, oh, here's one with the same ingredients. So it really got me thinking of what are we not using it for, and how could we be asking it questions for everyday problems that we encounter or questions we have that has been really helpful. We have a fitness center here, and we were saying we wanted to create different workouts for the people that were wanting to join the fitness group. And so we have these fitness plans that people can download. And so it's just like coming up with lead magnets for our event center. What are things that help somebody create a great event? And I want it to start 1 year out if they're booking an event 1 year out. And we put together this whole lead magnet for people. So it was just coming up with ideas that would help in ways that may not necessarily, most people may not think of as marketing, but they're great marketing pieces. Yeah, we have
So I just looked up where to take Chat GPT classes.
well, everyone has them
With
if you're over
Gina.
50. I get marketed to all the time. I
Oh
get
my God, I
marketed to
know,
all the time
right?
going, are you over 50 and you need to learn how to use AI? I'm like, oh my gosh. Or
Corsives.
yeah,
I don't know if that's how you say it. They have an ad campaign running on Instagram. Yeah, it's obnoxious.
there's
Yeah.
so many. Everybody right now is an AI expert. Just like
Mm-hmm.
in 2007, everyone was a social media expert. So it's the
Yeah.
same. We're in that same area with these new tools. But I tell people, don't be afraid to just get in there and play with them and ask them questions of, I don't even know how to use it. What can I use Chat GPT for? What can I use AI tools to help me do? And you'll be amazed at all the things it can start helping you automate email, filter your email. There's AI tools for that. And just looking at what overwhelms you during the day, is there a tool I could use? And I tell people start with the free tools until you know you're going to use it because everyone signs up for subscriptions and you're wasting money. But play around with all the free tools out there.
Wow. Well, Jamie, we're over. So
I know.
I'm
Oh,
speechless.
okay, great. Actually, I can't wait to hear what Gina has to say to this
Yeah.
answer. Okay, Gina,
Yes.
maybe you're celebrating, your expansion, or you get the loan and you decide to go out and have a little night on the town, and you decide to go karaokeing. What's your karaoke song?
Oh, I'd have to say Carrie Underwood's, and I'm not a country fan, but Carrie Underwood's I Am a Champion. We play that here all the time when we're
Ooh.
feeling like rock stars. We put that on and we all dance around.
Ooh, I like it.
Awesome.
I knew she'd have a good one.
For sure.
Yeah,
Awesome.
very
Well,
fun.
thank you so much. We look forward to hearing more from you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it sounds
I'll
like
have
we're
more
gonna.
AI updates. We have a new AI
Oh,
assistant that's going to be doing all of our new member video series. So that's our next big one that we're working on.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, and it sounds like we'll get to see you in real life in Chicago
I
in
know.
October.
I'm looking forward to it.
Geo, it's never too early to start promoting.
Everybody needs to be there.
Yeah, I'll be
True
there.
story.
Can't wait. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you very much. Bye.